Time for the top of debate, none other than the wonderful Nicholas Rees, Deputy Lord Mayor of Melbourne, and One Nation's James Ashby, who joins us right now. And I want to get this right. You're in Waterston, which is not too far from Mackay. To give everyone an idea, and God love you, Nicholas, Paul. I was in your city just for a brief moment a couple of days ago. You currently, if you went outside, feels like 7 degrees. Right now, near Mackay in Walkerston, 19 degrees. James, you win every time. Regional Queensland beats Melbourne in winter. We can agree that. All right. Now, Nicholas, I want to start with you. As a man who is a deputy mayor and knows how local councils work, there was a council meeting in Western Sydney recently where a 20-minute discussion started to take place between members of the public and a councillor, not in the English language, but instead in Chinese, in Mandarin. Now, we all understand ethnic diversity. We all want people who are bilingual to be part of our government, but English is the language by which all citizens should be able to communicate with their government. What would you do if a conversation started straying from the English language so the rest of the room had no idea? Because this went on for 20 minutes.
Wow.
Yeah, so look, what I know of this meeting, it does sound highly problematic. English is the official language of Australia. If this is a public meeting discussing public business, council business, I understand it was to discuss the proposal for a local tip, which had a lot of people concerned out there in Parramatta, then absolutely there should have been English translation services available. So any person who turned up to the meeting who spoke English could be able to listen to it. The bit I'm not certain about is if there's more to this story that we don't know about. Like, for example, if it was advertised as a special briefing session for Mandarin speakers, and there is a big Mandarin speaking population in that part of Sydney, and there was only a Mandarin speaker there to deliver some information about it, then, you know, there may be some margin for debate about it. So I would like to know a little bit more detail before, you know, throwing the whole council in the shame file. But as a basic principle, I do think that, yes, it's a public meeting. English is the official language. There should be English translation. It should be conducted in English, or if it's not, there should be English translation services.
Nicholas, that sound you can hear from 3,000 k's away is James Ashby's big eye roll just then.
Yep. Yeah, and Paul, when you've got a community which is made up of over 54% of people that weren't born in the country, they've migrated and have moved into that shire, any wonder why we've got problems? They're called, what do we call those things? Enclaves? Really, honestly, we've got to have a look at this. If you want to bring people in from other countries, yeah, Nicholas is right. You've got to be able to speak English. It should be the #1 rule when you get your citizenship. If you don't speak English, you're not going to fit in very well here in this country. You're not going to be able to find yourself a job. You're not going to be able to understand what the politicians are trying to sell you come election time. How do you know who to vote for if you can't speak English? 14% of that shire doesn't have any English skills. Only 25%, just over 25% of that shire speak English as a first language. There's your problem.
Yeah. I mean, Nicholas, again, we understand and we have the open heart to everyone around the world, but for obvious reasons, you want people to have some ability to be able to speak a common language. And if you are wanting to go and speak to government, OK, government has to find a way to help translate its information, but its proceedings have to be done in the language that any member of the public can understand, and that's English.
Yes, that's why I would like to know a little bit more detail about this meeting. But as a basic principle, I do agree with you. But look, where I think when James has crossed the line there is, you know, when he starts talking about enclaves and saying you must speak English. Of course, you should be strongly encouraged to speak English in this country. And I think one of the important services government should provide to new arrivals is English classes. Obviously, the country works better if everybody can speak our national language. But the idea that you shouldn't be allowed to live in this country if you can't speak the language, I do think that's a bridge too far. I mean, there'll be people who live in this country who have come here from war-torn regions. They came here fleeing for their lives, and they may not have had the opportunity
14%
to learn
city?
English. They can still live a good life in this country. It would be better if they could speak English. But I think James goes too far when he says hard line outright, you got no place here. I think we can still accommodate those people.
All right, well, James, I don't think that this thing's going to turn violent because you are currently 5 days away on a bike from where Nicholas is, and he doesn't fly. So if he decides to walk, that's 18 days from now. So you might be able to get a head start. Now, let's talk about the ANZ.
You know what, Paul? I'm in the middle of an area where all the migrants came here. They spoke a different language in their home countries. They learnt English when they came here. I'm in the middle of the cane fields. That's exactly, they came from other countries.